Welcome to Mind Over Matter, where we feature young Jamaicans who are shooting for the stars. I'm your host, Margaret Boyne. Growing up in the volatile inner city of Maxfield Avenue, she has faced many challenges on her journey to become a lawyer. She has lived through the harsh reality of poverty and gun violence. In one incident, her mother was shot, and in another, her nephew was grazed by a bullet. Today, at 26 years old, she has been called to the bar. She shares her journey. My guest is QUIDI-ANN King. Well, QUIDI-ANN, when I look at the spelling of your name, I keep getting confused. Like, I want to say QUIDI-ANN. I don't know. I don't know where you get that name.
But you've gotten it correct, surprisingly. That does not for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm sure you experience that almost every day.
All the time.
Yeah, man. I saw an article in the newspaper, and you had on your gown in front of your zinc fence. I don't know if it was the yard that you lived.
It was.
Right. And you had a photo shoot, and I was thinking, boy, a photo shoot with a zinc fence behind it. I mean, why do you think that was so important for you to have your photo shoot right in front of that zinc fence?
Right. It was one important for me to do my photo shoot at my gate, where I would have left out to go to university many mornings, because it signifies a lest we forget kind of mindset. So should I ever forget that these are the humble beginnings that would have shaped me and molded me, I want it to be solidified, so that I can always remember where I came from and what I came from.
So it's basically a symbol of hope in QUIDI-ANN. So let's go back to how it started. You grew up in Maxfield Avenue, as I mentioned, one of the most violent areas in Kingston. So tell me about growing up on Bertram Lane. What was it like?
So I grew up on Spade Corner. That is what we called the stretch where I grew up on, right? And on that stretch, growing up in the inner city, you aren't so aware of your circumstances. Like, you aren't aware of the violence. You aren't aware of the poverty at such a tender age. It was just that you were playing with friends, you were happy, lively, bubbling, doing all kind of games that you But then reality had hit me a little earlier than everyone else, because it was when I was 7 years old that I had witnessed basically my mom getting shot. But growing up overall was a very joyous experience for what I can remember it to be. I was a happy child, and we weren't so aware of the difficulties that loomed over us and would have continued to loom over us for years to come.
Yeah, but don't jump over that, your mother getting shot like that. Tell me about that incident.
Well, I can still remember it to be the most traumatic incident of my life. So much so that I have possibly told the story all of 3 times. And that has only been in interviews, because I am not fond of repeating it. But I was around 7 years old. My mom was washing outside. It was a zinc dwelling, and I was inside the house, directly facing where she was washing. That house was my sister's house, Janice King. And so I can just remember being inside, it being decent hours, possibly like 9, 10. And I heard the shot. But I haven't been so accustomed to gunshots. You're supposed to get flat, go under the bed and things like that. But before I could go into that mode, I heard my mother shout to my sister, and like she said, Lisa, and just hearing her cried out to my sister, I could tell something was not right. And she said that me get shot. I can still remember like running to the door, still seeing her with the bloods on her hand, feeling under her leg. And then my sister automatically has to be rushing, calling everybody, pleading for help. And I can remember that I stood in that same position, what would have been for hours now that I think back about it, because I had to watch them, one, get her up to try to carry her to the hospital. And then my sister left with her. And then I just stood there in an attempt to try to process what had just happened.
Mm-hmm. So what effect did that have on you mentally, though?
Well, it will still affect me to date. I
Mm-hmm.
suffer from PTSD as it relates to gun violence. This is my very first time saying this out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Actually. And so when I hear even a box burst or a loud bike muffler,
Mm-hmm.
I can
Jump. Mm-hmm.
of just joining or reacting traumatically, and that would have begun there.
Mm-hmm.
So mentally, it really, really took a toll on me.
Mm. But years later, a nephew of yours also got shot as well.
Right.
So it really was must have been traumatic for you,
Well,
man, and your
yeah,
family.
my nephew got grazed, and that we
Mhm.
were all in the house together, and a single gunshot flew through the house, grazed over my nephew, passed over my niece and I, and flew right into the dresser glass, shattered the glass. So it was after the gunshot flew through and we heard the glass shattered that my nephew realized that the gunshot had cut him, and where I instinctively rolled off the bed and pulled my niece with me.
Mm. So QUIDI-ANN, with all of that is going on around you, and so where did this interest come from that you wanted to do law? You wanted to be a lawyer?
So I've never wanted to be anything else, actually. In every book from 6 years old, my
Mm.
occupation has always been to be a lawyer. And
Okay.
I can remember being around 6 at the time and witnessing police brutality. And I
Mm.
always thought that I wanted to be in a position to do something about this. And so, of course, I'd have made some inquiries from older folks, like what did this occupation look like? And they gave me a variety of options, but I chose that I wanted to be a lawyer. And then everything fostered that growing up, the fact how I spoke, the debating side of me, how I like to engage in riveting conversation. Of course, all of that eventually prepared me to fall in love with the law itself.
Mm-hmm. So you set out on a path and you stuck to it.
Right.
So what high school you went to? You did GSAT, and where you went to?
I went, yeah. So I did the GSAT at the Maxfield Park Primary School, and
Mm-hmm.
I went to St. Hugh's High School.
Oh, you went to St. Hugh's. Okay. Yeah, man. So how did that shape
Well,
at St. Hugh's?
right. After St. Hugh's, I went to St. Andrew Technical. So I went to St. Andrew Technical sixth form. But St. Hugh's was really what built the foundation of a number of my skills, the public speaking, the debating. The atmosphere was so conducive for the development of a young lady, fostering her own thoughts, holding, of course, certain stance against social issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I can remember initially going to St. Hugh's, I joined the debating club at grade 7, and I would have been the club president from grade 10. So I was the club president in grade 10 and in grade 11. And I joined a number of other clubs. But St. Hugh's helped me to see strong women in power, having authority, having a voice. And of course, I would have needed that for the field that I had chosen.
So you went to St. Andrew Tech sixth form. Okay, so leaving St. Andrew Tech, no, you went to UA, but
Right.
you wouldn't have any money. So where that come from? That's a boy, you think you can go to university without money. How that come up?
Well, it didn't come up. I just kind of acted on a whim. So I didn't have I called a number of teachers and I was saying to them that I wanted to do law. Do you think I should do a cheaper degree? Should I try a degree for 300 and odd thousand versus a million and odd? Because remember, I don't have even a cent, but I know 300 and 1,000 is easier to find. And of course, I was saying at the crossroad that school had started. I had applied for law school. I had got into law school. School I started and I was not attending. I had not so much so as paid my miscellaneous fee. And so one morning, my mom got up and she said that it no make no sense to say you want to start, and it no make no sense you say you want to go do law and you're laying down here every morning. Go to school. The money is not here yet. The money will come. You have to operate on faith. And so she said, tomorrow are you going? No. So said, so done. She woke me up and she followed me to the bus stop. And she said, you know where's the faculty of law? You know where's school? Go there. you ask kids. There are big lecture rooms, right? So ask about the lectures that you'd have to do in year one and see if you can sit in the lectures. And that is what I did for a number of weeks. I couldn't attend tutorials because I had no timetable because I had paid no money.
So how you mean? I don't understand your QUIDI-ANN. How you mean you just go into the classes, go into the lectures, sit down?
To the lectures and sat at the back, wrote the notes, spoke to people, tried to find out what I had missed. That is what I did for weeks.
Wow. No man, I can't believe that QUIDI-ANN. But I tell you, your mother's faith though, very strong.
Very
so how
strong.
Things pan out after that? Because you would have had to take the exams now. So how did the fee come about now?
Okay. So I had started again to look about student loans. The thing is, I could not find a guarantor. And even so, as a law student loan, I think only gave you 800 and odd. So you still have over 500,000 to find on your own. Right. And so even with student loan, I wasn't able to pay the entire tuition. So I can remember after I paid the miscellaneous, I signed up for student loans, can't get no guarantor because of the guarantor requirement, and I need loan every day trying to acquire a loan. And then I can remember being in a lecture and leaving the lecture feeling so hopeless, like all is lost. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write to the dean of the faculty, Mr. Leighton Jackson, and I'm going to explain to the dean of the faculty what my situation was and that I really wanted some assistance. Walked to the law school. I saw pamphlets with the dean email on it, actually. And I took down the email and I went home. And I wrote, and I can remember in the email, I put urgent in the heading. And then, of course, I went on to explain to Mr. Jackson that I am a first-year student from Kingston 13 and that I had started law school solely on faith. And I'm trying to acquire a student loan, but even that would not be enough. And I don't know where I'm going to get the rest of the money from. And I wrote that to him, and around a week and a half later, I was passing and he was passing, and somehow he recognized my face. Like he looked up my ID number to see my picture, and he said that, no, you're the one that wrote to me, right, Miss King? And I said, yes. And he would have said, come visit my office at XYZ time. And I went. and he gave me the name of someone, and he said to me, go to this person. I would have already briefed her on the situation and speak to her. And I think it was a Mr. Nisha. I'm not sure for her last name, but I went and I spoke with her, and she had me applied for the UE Mona Law bursary, which I got.
But QUIDI-ANN, you're still living in Maxfield Avenue, right? Right. You're lot of girls in the ghetto around you getting pregnant, all them something there. So how you managed to keep your head up and never fall into all of that?
Well, firstly, I created the balance between my childhood friends and what I actually wanted out of life until I couldn't create that balance anymore. So I had balance being friends with them, but not going outside at night to sit and talk for hours because I had to study. And even when I was falling off the ledge and sometimes going outside, neglecting my study, I had a mother that would come to call me to remember
inside.
I stayed focused on my goals through constant reminder of my situation. And I also knew that pregnancy wasn't a route that I was going to take. Hanging out on the corner every night and early every morning was not a route that I was going to take, simply because I had seen the reproduction of that route for years. And I decided long ago that that would not have been my reality. And so I actively took steps to ensure that that was not my reality, even when it became pretty difficult because I was living in a community where most of the people that I grew up with, I was not so acquainted with anymore. But that was fine because what I wanted to achieve, I could not have done the same things and still got here.
And what were some of the reactions though? Because I know when you come from them area, and you were striving, and them are gonna say you're going like you're better than them. You met up on that.
Right. I have and so much so there's a story about me walking. I was walking home, and on a road there were a few potholes and it was raining and I had no umbrella. And I can remember I tried to skip over a pothole and slide, and I almost fell. And then everyone that was witnessing the incident, and these were childhood friends of mine, had burst out into laughter. And then somebody had passed the remarks to say, I can't wait till you slip and drop on your face. And I went home and I told my mom, and my mom, she had said that is it. That is you're going like you're better than my mindset, and I cannot wait for you to falter. And so she would remind me now that the stronger, the harder the battle, the sweeter the victory, and that even so, you know that people are looking on, waiting for you to fall subsequently into the pothole because they see you holding yourself in certain regard. And so you know had to step up the pace. You had to fight harder than you were fighting before.
So tell me about those years at UWI doing the law degree, how you manage financially and paid fees. You got scholarships. How did that work out?
So for 1 year, the student loan did come through, really made it through for my everyday commute was that I taught classes at pre-university. I taught alongside Miss Dr. Crawford, so she would have invited me over because she would have known my struggle via my sixth form teacher at Stats, Miss Katie and Braham, who was related to her. And so she called me over, and of course she had me teach some classes. I was compensated for that, and that is what cool. I also saved from summer jobs. I kept fish fries, I kept cake sales, and
Okay.
save that money as well, and use it to come to school. I one summer I can remember working two jobs at a call center and at Shipping Associate of Jamaica. And so I would leave out for Shipping Associate of Jamaica from 9 to 5, and then I would go to the call center at 10 in the night to 7 in the morning, and then get ready from the call center to go to Shipping Associate of Jamaica. And I did that for a month and saved.
So how you balance that? Because law, I see, with some heavy books. How you manage all of that reading plus working, doing all of that?
And I've never not worked. Like my entire tenure at law school, I was at least working two jobs. I was teaching, or I was working at a call center. I was planning to keep an event. But I would pride myself as someone that retains very easily. They say it's a photographic memory. But once I sat down and read, I could retain easily. So no, I was not, I can't even say I was at school 50% of the time. But what I did not get, I had two friends at law school, Chanel Curry and Kea. They were the one who would give me the topics, give me the notes. I would read them at my own, read them at nights when I could not sleep. And when it was close to exams, I would literally pack my moving bag at UA, and I would be at school for days, studying, sleeping on campus, waking up, studying, sleeping on campus, all nighters for days until I had sat my exams. And funny enough, that method would have paid off for me, because my entire tenure there, I've never failed a course.
Oh, so many sleepless nights, QUIDI-ANN. So
Many.
persons, they don't know what you had to go through. So tell me about
They
that.
don't.
Yes, tell me about that call to the bar ceremony now. Tell me how you felt. Tell me about it.
Okay. Right. So the calling to the bar itself is a grueling process. So the documents to file, because I should have been called in December, but then I had to relocate. And so all my documents weren't filed in time. And so I was subsequently called January the 19th by Casey-Ian Wilkinson.
Okay.
And so I can remember the day of the calling, I was nervous. I was nervous, to say the least. And then I woke up early to go get my hair done, and the hairdresser was running a little late. And so I had to leave in the middle of that. And then I had a wardrobe mishap, and then I had to get that corrected. And I was the first one that was going to be called, and I had to be at the office at a certain time. And then I had to pick up my mother with a friend of mine, rushing to the office, just nerve-wracking, reciting the oath because I don't want to mess up. And then I reached the office. Mr. Wilkinson was not physically present. He was overseas at the time.
Oh.
And I reached just like 2 minutes before I was on camera being called. But then I can remember being in the office, reciting the oath, and having my mom looked at me, and I looked at her. And in that moment, I know that she felt as though this was surreal, and I had felt the same way, almost unbelievable that this was happening.
But you, how do you feel about being the first person in your family who have been to university, who have accomplished so much? I mean, some people, I think that it's almost impossible that you would have done this. How you feel about that?
Well, my sister is a nurse at Kingston Public Hospital. She went back to school, and I also have a brother, Kevral King, who is also a welder. But I went to university. I was the first one to go to university, yes, to acquire tertiary education. And if anything, I know that I was setting the foundation for what it is to come from my family. I was literally breaking educational generation curse. And I am most proud of that because now I have a niece who is doing extremely well. I have cousins who have looked at me as someone who has attained this feat, has watched me on TV, and you know how far representation goes, right? And of course, they are now shooting for the stars, and that is all that I could have hoped for, to inspire my family so that I might be the first, but not the last.
What area of law will you be specializing in?
Well, for now, I know what area of law I'm not specializing in. All the other areas, all the other areas I'm dabbling in. So I'm not specializing in law, but I am, of course, doing some civil, probate, family, conveyance, those areas. But I know I am not specializing in criminal. When I find my niche soon enough, I'll share.
Okay. So how do you see yourself, though, using your legal training, to make a positive impact in your community?
Right. So I always thought that it was teachers who really helped me, right? It was Miss Katie Braham, Miss Georgia Crawford, Miss Natalie Cole, Miss Bessa Nelson, Miss Jacqueline Greenland. It was teachers who paid it to me so that I could be here today in some shape or form. They would have assisted me financially, or they would have helped me along the way, education-wise, or they would have housed me. It was teachers who really fought for my dreams. And having gone into the teaching profession myself, I see how important it is and the kind of impact you can make as a teacher on the life of your students. And so, of course, I have future plans to have classes in my community to pay it forward, as it sure that I'm giving back educational wise, because that can never be enough. I have to ensure that I go back to the community where I'm from to teach them the importance of education and the doors that it's open, especially that door outside of poverty. So I definitely plan to go back and to give back.
And before you leave, QUIDI-ANN, leave a message for the young girls, some of them down at Maxfield, in same circumstances that you're living in. Leave a message for them.
Right. Well, I'd say what I always say, that people don't remember your story unless you win. So win, like every story is common to just the mishap and the struggles, but it's the overcoming that will be remembered. And whatever you need, it is not outside of you, it is inside of you. And so you have to search for it, you have to use it, and you have to maximize it. Plus, dream big. If you're dreaming and you're not uncomfortable with your dreams, you're not dreaming big enough. So dream big. It is attainable, believe me.
It was great talking to you, QUIDI-ANN. Boy, I could talk to you a lot longer than this, I'm telling you. And I just want to wish you all the best. I'm sure I'm going to be seeing you in the newspaper again because you have made it several times before. So I'm looking forward to seeing you again. And it was great talking to you.
Okay. It was great speaking to you as well, Mrs. Barnes. Have a good one.
Yeah, man. Thanks again.